Hi everybody, and welcome back to another weekly Wolf vlog. My name's Joshua, and in this week's vlog, we're going to be taking a look at how to get good latte art at home. We get a ton of messages all the time from home users asking us how they can get good latte art at home. Now, I just want to point out that I have almost zero experience with home espresso machines. I've worked in the industry for over a decade, but I've rarely worked on home espresso machines. Wolf does have a few espresso machines in-house that I've been able to play on now to get some experience. So what is the espresso machine I'm going to be using today? Well, it is an Isomac Professional dual boiler with PID. And what does that mean? Well, this espresso machine has two boilers in it. So we're separating the job that one boiler has of creating hot water for your espresso brewing and also steam for making textured milk. And PID in this machine is a mechanism that helps keep a really stable temperature. But how this machine differs to, say, a commercial machine is definitely, I noticed when using it that I still found that there was a drop in temperatures as I was steaming my milk. And that also correlated to the pressure available in the steam wand. So that's the first thing I want to discuss today is the temperature of your steam boiler is directly related to how strong the pressure is coming out of the steam wand. So on this PID, I was able to control the temperature of the steam boiler and there was a range of 110 degrees to a maximum of 126. Now on commercial machines, we usually sit within a range of 1.1 to around 1.4. The other thing that will increase with more pressure is the temperature and how quick the milk steams and gets hot to begin with. And that's really one of two things we're trying to do to our milk. So the first thing is we're actually trying to increase the temperature of the milk. So we're using cold milk and we're going to be bringing that temperature up to around 60 degrees. And the second thing we're doing is we're going to be adding air into that milk. Now the air itself doesn't come out of the steam boiler. The air is wrapped into the milk in a circular motion. Now think about whipping eggs. The whisk itself is not a magical wand. The movement of you whisking and moving around in a circular motion wraps air into the eggs like a vortex, creating a small foam that you break down in that movement. So essentially what you're trying to do also when you're steaming milk is you really want to get that circular motion started as soon as possible. Now the velocity of that steam coming out, the strength of that steam coming out of your steam wand will affect how efficiently you can get into that circular motion. So I found at the lower pressures, at the lower temperatures of this machine, that I did have to, move the jug around a little bit, but it just takes a little bit more finesse to get it right. So with this espresso machine, there was a minimum temperature of 110 degrees in the steam boiler, and that gave me a bar pressure of 0.4 bars. And the maximum was 126 degrees, and that gave me a bar pressure of 1.4, which is more like what I'm used to working on those commercial machines. So let's get straight into it. What I'm going to do is set my boiler temperature at 126 degrees, which is going to give me that 1.4 bars. I'm going to make some milk and see if I can pour some latte art. And then I'm going to drop those bar pressures down all the way down to 110 and see how I go. Now with this, I'm using a regular 300 ml jug and also a 600 ml jug. I'll be steaming both of these back to back, and I'll also be pouring into a regular and a large size cup. That way you can see how it performs at certain temperature and bar pressures across both jugs. So you can see I've got the temperature set at 126 degrees, which gives me a pressure of 1.4 bars. Make sure you always purge your steam wand before you steam your milk. This way getting rid of any water or condensation that's built up. So I'm hoping to get a really nice spin when I turn this on, which I do. Now you can see the steam tip. I have it just outside of the milk, and that helps pull air into the milk and create bubbles. And what I'm essentially trying to do is get those bubbles then incorporated into the milk. So at this bar pressure, I'm not having any trouble at all spinning the whole body of the milk. That is the surface and what's happening underneath. So I just raise my jug up there a little bit to increase a little bit of temperature in the milk and not add so many bubbles. Happens fairly quickly though. And I only ever, if you go back, I only ever have the milk in the steam wand up until the tip. It's never raised above the tip. I'm pretty happy with this milk. There's a nice viscosity, it's quite thick, and there's certainly some volume I've added to it. Don't judge me on my latte art though. I was still getting used to this milk. It is still a little bit thin. The bubbles aren't quite as incorporated in the milk as I'd want, but I'm pretty happy with that otherwise. And for the larger jug, the spin, I wasn't able to get the spin quite as quick, but it's still at that bar pressure, at that temperature, I'm able to get the whole body of the milk spinning. And those bubbles, as you can see around the steam tip, are slowly getting incorporated, so they're getting sunk into the milk and getting spun into the milk. Again, I'm quite happy with that milk and what I was able to achieve in that large jug. Not so much the latte art. Now, if we have a look at the next two clips, I'm using 110 degrees temperature, and what this will mean is I have a bar pressure of 0.4. Not a lot of pressure at all. So you can hear the steam wand is really pushing to try and get that milk spinning. What ends up happening is I have to keep the tip even further out of the milk to get air incorporated into the surface of the milk, and then trying to get it then spinning into the milk itself. And I never felt like the whole body of milk was spinning at the same time. It's just creating really slow bubbles. So I feel like I've got two very distinct textures in this milk at this lower temperatures, which means underneath that foam is still quite a thin milk where the bubbles aren't fully incorporated. And that generally makes your latte art harder to create. Thin milk will always not hold the crema as well. This is the larger jug. Now, if I had problems with the smaller jug, I can expect to have even further troubles with the larger jug. More milk, a longer time to increase the temperature. And you can see it doesn't get immediately into a spin. You can see there's a lot of bubbles still just hanging around at the top of the jug there, not being incorporated. You can see them now slowly getting mixed in, but again, the whole body of the milk really isn't spinning. It's just what's directly around the steam tip itself, which I'm trying to keep as far out as the milk as possible without it spurting everywhere. Now it's starting to look somewhere better. Temperature's not quite where I need it to be, but also the pressure itself out of the steam tank is starting to drop dramatically. So I'm fighting a losing battle here. Again, I feel like there is two distinct textures to this milk. One is the foam that I've created at the top, quite a thin foam that's not fully incorporated into the body of the milk. And then there's that kind of very thin liquidy milk underneath that foam. And you can definitely see that when I start to pour the latte art. You're not creating that canvas you need to hold the pattern, and then your pattern starts to run. It doesn't want to hold its shape very well. However, really looking at it, even at those even very low pressures, I still feel like I have some control in creating the latte art that we were all hoping to achieve. Definitely none of those more technical patterns I would be looking at, but as far as something simple at home at 0.4 bars of pressure at 110 degrees, that's only just above boiling point, I'm able to create enough pressure to steam milk. So I'm still actually reasonably happy with that. I hope you guys found that really helpful and saw some visual tips that perhaps is going to help you at home. I know that isn't conclusive evidence on being able to steam milk at lower pressures and pour latte art. I had a minimum of 110 degrees and a bar pressure of 0.4. So if you feel like you have an espresso machine at home that is providing you with a lot less bar pressure and temperature there, then it's just going to take a lot more work in getting it where it needs to be. I personally found 0.4 degrees quite tricky, so anything below that, practice, 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 is all I say when it comes to latte art, but even at those pressures though, it's going to be very difficult. Full cream milk is going to help. If you're using anything other than full cream milk, then your end point, your goal is just going to get a little bit further away and a little bit harder for you to achieve. So I want to do a big shout out to all our subscribers. Thank you so much for subscribing. We love you guys. We're almost up to 50,000 subscribers. So each one of you, we really appreciate that. And if you don't subscribe, then do. You'll get notifications each week when we post a new video. Please add any comments below. We love to hear what you think, and also any ideas on any videos that you want to see. Jump over to our website. We do ship worldwide now. And again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.